Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome in. This is going to be guide number 1 of a multi-part series that's going to be guiding you on how to learn chase in Dead by Daylight on Survivor. This is going to be focused around a basic killer with no chase power, because this is basically the fundamental of chase and what helps you get good at everything else. If you can't do a chase against a killer with no chase power, how the hell are you going to play against a killer that actually has like a dash ability or whatever, right? You need to know the very bare basics before you do anything else. Keep in mind, this video will be assuming that you just came out of the tutorial of the game and you are extremely new. So if you think you already know the very bare basics of the game, you might want to skip ahead to the intermediate guide or maybe even the advanced guide. But for now, we're going to be touching base on some of the basic mechanics that aren't covered in the tutorial for people that are maybe brand new. I want to also be clear that this video is only about chasing and not about your decision making. Your decision making will probably naturally get better over time, and I may also make different videos on that in the future as well. But for now, we're going to be focusing solely on being chased and how to be effective in chase. So first thing I want to cover is kind of just the general idea behind chase and looping in this game. I mean, you hear the term looping a lot when you're into DBD, and this is essentially what DBD has become. A lot of people, when they're new, think that this game is more of like a hide and seek game, and it kind of can be at times, but generally speaking, a killer that knows what they're doing will not lose you mid-chase unless you have some kind of crazy perk combo that makes it more likely. So more often than not, the goal of being chased in this game isn't to lose the killer and go into hiding. It's to basically prolong your death for as long as possible. For instance, if you can make the killer take 3 whole minutes to kill you, that's enough time for your entire team to do all the objectives, and then as a team you can most likely just win the game from there. Now, I'm sure you've already seen this in the tutorial, but the game does give you 2 resources to help you do this, which are pallets and windows. These are both just different objects that you can kind of use to put something in between you and the killer to help you get more distance and kind of just stay away from, hopefully, their attack range. Now, these 2 resources function a bit differently. For instance, with windows, the killer can also vault through windows. They just do it slower than survivors, at least baseline without perks. And pallets, on the other hand, cannot be vaulted by most killers anyway, and they have to kick the pallet in order to get by it. And speaking of kicking the pallet, this is also a thing that makes them different as well. Pallets are a destructible resource, so once you throw it and it gets broken by the killer, that pallet is now gone for the entire rest of the match, whereas a window will never be truly gone. They can be temporarily blocked by perks and different effects, but they will never be truly gone from the match. They will be there until the end of the game no matter what. Another thing that's kind of weird about the difference between these is that there are 2 kind of vaults that you can do, and I'm sure you've seen this in the tutorial as well. There's a rushed vault, which happens whenever you hold the sprint button and vault something. It's kind of like a faster vault that makes a loud noise. And then there's a slow vault, which is when you don't hold the sprint button. You do a very, very slow vault, but it's a silent one. So if you're not really like, if you're currently not being chased, you do the slow vault to avoid detection. But what's interesting is that with windows, there's actually a 3rd kind of vault. There's something that's called a medium vault. That's kind of an in-between slow vault and fast vault. So essentially, this vault is just a weaker version of a fast vault. It still gives the loud noise notification, but you're kind of stuck in animation for longer, and your ending position is actually much, much worse. Which is actually really important, especially considering things like ping and latency in every online game. For instance, if you want to see a test of this, you can see that if you fast vault a window and then don't move at all, the killer on the other side of the window cannot hit you. You end up in a spot that's far enough away from the window that the killer cannot hit you, whereas if you medium vault a window and then stand completely still, the killer can just walk right up and smack you. That's because your ending position after a medium vault is close to the window as opposed to the fast vault being far from the window, and this could lead to a lot of really crazy hits when you get a medium vault as opposed to a fast vault. Because of this, learning fast vaults has become a really important part of getting better at this game. So the criteria needed for these kind of vaults, by the way, is basically just 2 separate criteria that needs to be reached in order for it to register as a fast vault. You essentially need a slight running start, like not that much, maybe like a step or 2 of a running start. And you also need to be coming at the window at as much of a perpendicular angle as possible. And if you didn't pay attention in geometry class, essentially perpendicular means you got to try to come at it directly on, right? Like straight out the window as much as you can. Now, what's weird about this is that it's not exact. You don't have to be coming at the window exactly. You can kind of go wide a little bit and just come in just slightly sometimes and make it work. It's a little bit weird and finicky, and you can play around with this a lot to try to learn the different weird angles that you can get fast vaults at. And the game even includes this little prompt at the bottom that happens whenever you actually meet the criteria. It says running vault instead of normal vault, so you can know that you met the criteria. And this can help you a lot when you're kind of learning where to get fast vaults and how to get fast vaults. On top of that, also, if you hit spacebar late, like you don't have to hit spacebar directly when it first pops up. You can wait a second until you meet the criteria sometimes, and this will let you get fast vaults in some really weird areas where you really feel like you shouldn't be able to get them. Keep in mind this is very, very hard to do though, and this is not something you should stress about early on, but it's something to definitely be aware of and maybe just slowly practice over time while we're also working on other things. And now the last difference between pallets and windows, I know I got a little sidetracked, is how they interact with Bloodlust. Now, I have no idea why, but the DBD tutorials do not include Bloodlust in any way, which is weird because it's a very basic mechanic of this game. But Bloodlust is basically a mechanic where when the killer is in chase with a survivor for a long time, they will slowly build speed every 12 or 15 seconds or so. And there's 3 different stages of Bloodlust, right? You get progressively faster up to stage 1, 2, and 3. And Bloodlust will either go away when the chase ends, or if you hit the survivor, or if you start using a killer power, or if you break a pallet. Those are essentially the 4 different ways that it can break. But it is very important to note that breaking a pallet does get rid of it, whereas nothing involving windows gets rid of Bloodlust at all, which is why pallets can be a very valuable resource. For instance, there are certain window setups where you can maybe play them for a long time and avoid the killer for a while, but if you just stay at windows the entire time, the killer will build Bloodlust, and eventually they'll end up being so fast that you just basically get hit no matter what. So even though windows are not breakable and you can reuse them over and over again, it's still kind of important to work in pallets here and there as well. Also, the other thing with windows that for some reason doesn't get touched in the tutorial is that if you are in the middle of a chase and you vault the same window 3 times, it gets blocked temporarily by the entity for the next like 45 seconds or so. So yeah, you also just can't use the same window over and over again for a long time anyway because of this built-in blocker mechanic. Essentially, the idea is that behavior wants windows to be kind of a filler resource that you use, right? Like something that you kind of use in between the pallet uses, but the pallets seem to be more of the main resource. Now, also the way the game is designed, though, is that 2 pallets are not always equal. As a matter of fact, sometimes they are very, very unequal. And sometimes you can have pallets that are extremely safe to play, where you can almost guarantee that you don't get hit and you can force the killer to kick it every time. And then there will be other pallets that are extremely dangerous to play, and you essentially need to be very careful with them because the killer will most likely get a hit on you if you try to play it. From a very basic level, this just boils down to how large the walls are around it, right? Like a pallet that has very small objects around it where the killer can be in lunge range on both sides makes it very unsafe, whereas a pallet that has large areas around it where the killer has to double back very, very far typically makes it a more safe pallet. Now, we're going to get more into detail about what makes pallets safe and unsafe later, as well as how to play them, but we're going to talk about that in probably the intermediate video. But for now, let's go back to maybe a pallet that is kind of more on the standard side or maybe a bit on the safer side. Essentially, this is where looping comes from, is that if you're playing against a killer, especially with no extremely large chase power, you can essentially loop the pallet before just throwing it, right? Like the idea of just running up and dropping it immediately and letting the killer kick it buys you way less time than maybe going around the outside, keeping an eye on the killer, and essentially matching his movement and just mirroring whatever they do. That way, you always hold distance against them, and you can get back to the pallet and only throw it when you absolutely have to, when the killer is close enough that you can't do another loop. This is the very, very bare basics of looping. This is essentially how it all began way back in the day when people first discovered that you could buy more time on a pallet. And essentially what you want to do when you do this is just make sure to keep your eye on the killer while you're running around. Make 100% sure to hug the walls close. This is a big mistake that new players make, is they'll run around wide. You have to make sure that you're hugging all the walls extremely close to give yourself the absolute best pathing possible. And also just make sure that you are trying to judge the distances correctly to make sure that you drop the pallet when you need to. Now, that will also take some practice. When you're new to the game, you're probably not going to know distances perfectly well. You're probably not going to know exactly how much distance you need to make another loop. So again, don't be afraid to make mistakes here. You're going to have to kind of feel it out and kind of get the feel for how much distance you need in order to make another loop safely versus when you need to just drop the pallet. And again, it's okay. You're going to get hit sometimes early on, but it's something to definitely try to learn. Now, a big problem you might be finding once you start to get the hang of all this, though, is that how do you actually find the pallets? How do you know where the hell you're going on a map? Now, this is something where I don't really know exactly how to perfectly teach this because it's, no matter what I do, it's going to be hard, right? There's like 40 plus maps in the game. There's so many different variations. Like, no matter what, when you're new to the game, there's going to be a process of learning the maps and trying to like figure things out, and you're never just going to get it quickly. However, I do think I can maybe give you a little bit of an idea of what to focus on to help you learn a little bit quicker than otherwise, right? Typically, the way that you know where you are on maps or know where you're going on maps is by paying attention to landmarks. Landmarks are basically like the main buildings or like the killer shacks or things like that on each map, and these spawn in the same place every single time. For instance, if you load into Cool Tower 1, you will always have the tower at one side of the map. There will always be a logs or water tower in the middle, and then there will always be a killer shack on the other side. On top of that, these kind of high walled tiles here that spawn are actually called maze tiles, and these are consistent spawns on every map. Like for instance, on this map, they will always spawn in the same areas. Now, what's a little bit weird about them is that they won't always be the exact same structure, right? Like the actual landmarks I named before will be the same structure every time. These will be a variant, right? There's like maybe 4 or 5 different variants that they could spawn as, but there will always be one of them there no matter what, and those variants will always have either a pallet or a window. Beyond this, everything else in a map is complete RNG. You could almost never guarantee a pallet in any other spot on most maps anyway, and it's usually just an RNG spawn between random rocks and trees, or maybe like a setup that has a pallet. So if you want guaranteed consistent resources to use, you want to try to keep in mind where the landmarks spawn, where the maze tiles spawn compared to the landmarks, and then try to run to those if possible. Unless, of course, you get like an indoor map like Larry's or Midwich or something, in which case you're completely on your fucking own, because those maps are a goddamn nightmare to learn. So I'm sorry, there's not really much to give you for those. That's just going to take some time. A big tool you could use, though, to help you learn spawns as well, but I want to give this a very, very big warning if I'm going to suggest this, is that there is a perk for Kate Denson called Windows of Opportunity. You might already know this. This is, I think this is the most popular survivor perk in the game for the last, like, 2 years straight. So you're probably already aware of this, but this is a perk that you could run that basically gives you the auras of all pallets and windows within 32 meters of you, and this will basically just show you where every resource is that you can possibly use. It's almost like a cheat code of a perk that just is like, here you go, here's the map. You don't have to know where things are or have any kind of idea where things spawn. We'll just tell you where it all is, which sounds amazing, and like, I mean, honestly it is. But I feel like a big thing about this perk is that if you're going to run this perk early on, I would very, very highly suggest that you use this perk with the intention of trying to learn the spawns as opposed to just relying on it, right? It's very, very easy to run this perk and then just be like, wow, I'll just never take this perk off, and now I never have to learn spawns because this perk will always just tell me where they are. But realistically, that perk could very easily get nerfed someday, and also you will also be stuck as a 3 perk player forever because you'll never be able to take it off if you rely on it. It's much, much better to try to use that as a tool to help you learn where things are and then maybe take it off later, as opposed to just relying on it all the time. Again, this is one of the hardest parts of the game, though. Do not stress too much about learning the maps early on. You're not expected by anyone to learn the maps quickly. There's a lot to learn, and this is gonna take some time. So don't be hard on yourself. Just give yourself some time to learn it. Okay, and the last final thing that I want to leave off on in this video, and this is probably the most important thing of this whole video. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video and make sure that you practice above anything else that I've said, it's this one thing, because this is 100% required if you want to be good at chase at all in this video game. You need to get good at this, which is looking behind you mid-chase. Having good camera movement and being able to like run around maps while having your camera looking behind you and paying attention to what the killer is doing is absolutely vital, and you need to be able to do this. There are some people out there that might claim that you don't need to do this and that you could just play off audio cues or something, but they're lying to you. Don't listen to them. They're lying to you. This is 100% necessary. You could never actually get good at this game without learning this first. Now, typically, if you're playing like a pallet already, this can be kind of easy, right? Especially if it's like a low wall pallet, because you already know what's around you. You can kind of just run along the wall while staring at the killer the entire time, and it's not very hard. This gets a little bit more complicated when you're running from one place to another in a map, when there's a bunch of trees in front of you and stuff that you could run into, or if you're maybe playing a tile that you're like not familiar with, that's a little bit more complicated. It can be a little bit hard to do. Typically, the way this is done by experienced players is you will quickly glance in front of you just to get an idea of what's there, so that you kind of know like what to avoid, right? Is there like a brick wall in front of you? Is there an open field? And then you turn the camera and then you basically run without looking in front of you because you know what's there, right? Like you can kind of navigate without running into walls, and then you glance back in front of you for a second, see what's there, glance back, right? You kind of have to like turn your camera over and over again here and there just to keep an eye on what's in front of you so that you know where you're going, and then look behind you. Also, on top of that, as you learn the maps more, you'll start to recognize that certain tiles, certain like spawns on maps are very, very similar, and you'll kind of get comfortable with the different setups that spawn with pallets and windows, and you'll just know the shape of them already without even having to look at them. For instance, me as an experienced player can run a lot of these tiles without even really looking behind, without looking in front of me at all, because I know exactly where everything is spawned already. And this is going to come again slowly as you learn the maps more, but I would focus at least on the first part, right? Like if you're running through an open field, try to practice looking in front of you for a little bit, seeing what's there, turning around, and then running while your camera is facing backwards. If you can't keep an eye on the killer, it's going to be impossible to know where they're going, what they're doing, how you're supposed to counter them. This is absolutely vital, so please, please practice this. This should be enough info for this first beginner video, I think. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We are going to get way more into details about things in Chase in the intermediate and advanced guide. So maybe if you watch through this whole video and you're like, damn, I didn't learn anything, I already knew all this. It's okay. I'm gonna go into way more detail later. We're gonna get really deep into all the nitty-gritty about exactly what to do in Chase and how to really maximize your efficiency. So make sure to check out those other videos. They will be linked in the description, and probably at the end of the video they'll be there as well. So thank you guys so much for watching this. If you guys enjoyed it, please leave it a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with anybody that's new to the game, that's trying to learn. I would really like to help people get better at this game. I think it's a big thing that I actually care about a lot. So feel free to share this around. Thank you guys so much for watching this. And that's gonna be it for me. I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. I'll see ya. I'll take care. See ya. See you later. Like